What if the cooking oil sitting in your pantry, the one you've been told is heart healthy, is actually one of the most damaging ingredients in your kitchen? You've been warned about sugar, processed carbs, and saturated fat. But no one told you about the vegetable oil hiding in almost every processed food and used in most home kitchens. And the truth is, when you heat it, it doesn't just cook your food. It transforms into something your body was never designed to handle. Welcome back to HEHHealth. I'm Dr. Vivian Hart. Let me start with a question. When was the last time you threw out a bottle of vegetable oil because it went bad? Probably never. You assumed it was fine, right? That's because, unlike a stick of butter that smells rancid, or a bottle of olive oil that turns cloudy, highly refined vegetable oils are stripped of the natural compounds that would normally signal spoilage. They can oxidize quietly and invisibly. But just because you can't see it or smell it doesn't mean it's not happening. So here's my second question. Have you ever noticed that after deep frying, the oil in your pan becomes darker and thicker? That dark sludge isn't just food residue. It's the visible evidence of chemical degradation. Those are polymerized compounds, trans fats, and a host of toxic byproducts like aldehydes forming right before your eyes. And every time you reuse that oil, you concentrate those toxins further. Let's rewind and start from the beginning. What is a vegetable oil? We're talking about industrial seed oils, soybean, canola, corn, sunflower, safflower, grapeseed, and rice bran oil. These are not foods that you can produce in your home by pressing a seed. They are manufactured using high heat, high pressure, and chemical solvents like hexane. They are then bleached and deodorized to remove the unappealing smell and color that result from this intense processing. What you're left with is a product that is technically edible, but biologically very far from the whole seeds it came from. The problem begins with their chemical structure. These oils are loaded with polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PUFAs. PUFAs have multiple double bonds in their molecular chains. These double bonds are chemically weak and highly reactive. Think of them as structural weak points. When you expose these oils to oxygen, light, or heat, those weak points are exactly where the attack happens. Oxygen slips in, the bonds break, and a cascade of chemical reactions begins. At the end of this process, the PUFAs break down into smaller, highly reactive molecules called aldehydes. And aldehydes are not just harmless breakdown products. A 2025 review published in the journal Food Chemistry found that subjecting vegetable oils to high-temperature cooking processes, such as frying, generates significant amounts of these toxic aldehydes. The review points to oil composition, cooking temperature, and heating time as the key drivers of aldehyde production. This is not a subtle effect. We're not talking about trace amounts. We're talking about a chemical factory turning your cooking oil into something your cells perceive as an active threat. Here's where it gets even more concerning. The 2025 review also noted that aldehydes are highly reactive. They can attack your DNA, your proteins, and the fatty membranes that surround your cells. When aldehydes attack your DNA, they can cause mutations that initiate cancer. When they damage proteins, they disrupt the structure and function of enzymes that your body relies on for thousands of chemical reactions. And when they attack cell membranes, they trigger oxidative stress and chronic inflammation. A companion study published in NPJ Science of Food in 2025 used advanced metabolomics to analyze the effects of thermal oxidation on edible oils. The researchers found that thermally oxidized oils induced significant liver injury in animal models. In other words, heating these oils until they degrade doesn't just affect their taste or stability, it creates compounds that directly harm your liver. Your liver is your primary detoxification organ. When you bombard it with aldehydes from repeatedly heated oils, it becomes overwhelmed. Fat accumulates, inflammation rises, and over time, This can progress to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, a condition now reaching epidemic levels, even in people who don't drink alcohol. But it doesn't stop there. A 2026 review in Current Nutrition and Food Science examined the impact of repeatedly heated vegetable oils on cardiovascular health. The authors concluded that prolonged heating induces lipid oxidation, producing novel compounds that raise blood pressure, elevate total cholesterol, and promote vascular inflammation. The inflammatory changes in the blood vessels directly increase your susceptibility to atherosclerosis, the buildup of plaque that leads to heart attacks and strokes. So the oil you think is protecting your heart may in fact be damaging the very walls of your arteries. Here's another question. Have you ever noticed that after frying with vegetable oil, you feel a little nauseous or your stomach feels unsettled? That's not a coincidence. A 2025 study in the Journal of Hazardous Materials found that heated vegetable oils contain high concentrations of aldehydes that are known to be cytotoxic, meaning they damage living cells. Your digestive tract is the first line of contact with these compounds, and it's not equipped to handle them. And here's the twist that most people don't consider. It's not just the oil you eat, it's the fumes you breathe. A 2025 study investigating emissions from heated rapeseed oils found significant concentrations of aldehydes and ketones in the steam and smoke rising from your pan. A separate meta-analysis of frying emissions concluded that frying is a major contributor to indoor air pollution, releasing carbonyls like acrolein and acetaldehyde directly into your kitchen. These compounds are known respiratory irritants. In cooks and food service workers, long-term exposure has been linked to an increased risk of lung cancer. So every time you're standing over a hot pan of vegetable oil, you're not just cooking, you're inhaling a toxic cocktail. Now, I need to pause here and address a very important nuance in this conversation. There is a parallel scientific debate about seed oils and their effect on heart health when consumed unheated. Several 2026 reviews and meta-analyses have concluded that the consumption of unheated seed oils as part of a balanced diet does not increase inflammation and may even offer cardiovascular benefits. A 2026 American College of Cardiology review noted that polyunsaturated fats are associated with lower cardiovascular risk. Some have argued that the demonization of seed oils is a social media overcorrection. Here's my position on this as a clinician. The evidence for the health benefits of unheated, minimally processed seed oils is not conclusive. But the evidence for the toxicity of heated and repeatedly heated seed oils is overwhelming. The difference between a teaspoon of raw soybean oil on a salad and the same oil used for deep frying is the difference between a relatively stable fat and a chemical hazard. The heat, oxygen, and duration of cooking fundamentally change the molecular structure of the oil. Therefore, I don't recommend seed oils even unheated. There are better, more stable, and more nutrient-dense options for cold use, such as extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil. And for high-heat cooking, seed oils are out of the question. So what should you be cooking with instead? Let me give you a clear, science-based ranking for high-heat methods like searing, frying, and roasting. Your best choices are fats-rich in saturated fatty acids. Why? Because saturated fats have no double bonds. Their molecular structure is fully saturated with hydrogen atoms. They are chemically inert and do not oxidize easily, even at high temperatures. Coconut oil is an excellent option. It's about 90% saturated fat, making it highly resistant to heat damage. A 2025 study that analyzed the thermal degradation of coconut oil during prolonged heating confirmed that it maintains relatively high oxidative stability, making it a good candidate for frying. Just avoid repeatedly reusing the same oil for multiple frying sessions, as each heating cycle degrades the oil further. Another high-heat stable option is sustainable palm oil. A 2025 analysis concluded that for deep frying, palm oil generates fewer aldehydes than oils like canola or sunflower. However, I want to be clear that conventional palm oil production is associated with significant deforestation. If you choose to use palm oil, look for ARSPO-certified sustainable sources. For medium heat cooking, such as sautéing and baking, you have more excellent options. Avocado oil is rich in monounsaturated fats and has a very high smoke point, over 500 F, 260 C. Its stability is excellent, and it can handle high heat without breaking down. A 2025 study that used advanced spectroscopy to analyze aldehyde generation found that oils high in monounsaturated fats, like avocado and olive oil, produce far fewer toxic aldehydes when heated compared to polyunsaturated rich oils. Extra virgin olive oil is also a great choice for medium heat. It's rich in polyphenols that provide some natural protection against oxidation. However, its smoke point is lower, so you shouldn't use it for extremely high heat searing or deep frying. Ghee or clarified butter is another traditional, stable fat that works beautifully for sautéing. Now, let me be very clear about what you should avoid. Do not use soybean, corn, canola, sunflower, safflower, or grapeseed oil for any high-heat cooking. I've said this before, but it bears repeating. If you are going to use these oils at all, use them only cold, such as in a salad dressing. And even then, buy them in dark glass bottles to minimize light exposure and store them in a cool, dark cupboard. And never, under any circumstances, reuse oil that has already been heated. Each heating cycle dramatically increases the concentration of aldehydes and other harmful compounds. Here's a practical, 4-step system to clean up your kitchen tonight. Step 1. Go through your pantry. If you see a bottle of vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, or safflower oil that you've been using for frying or sautéing, move it to your discard pile. Don't pour it down the drain, as it can clog your pipes and harm the environment. Instead, seal it in its original bottle and dispose of it in your household trash. Step 2. Replace it with stable cooking fats. For high-heat frying and searing, use coconut oil, ghee, or sustainably sourced palm oil. For medium heat roasting and sautéing, use avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil. Having 2 or 3 different oils for different purposes is perfectly fine, and it may even be beneficial. Step 3. Learn to recognize smoke points and stability. When an oil starts to smoke, it's signaling that it's already begun to degrade. If you see smoke, reduce the heat immediately, or throw out the oil if it's old or has been reused. Step 4. Stop fearing saturated fat. The blanket demonization of saturated fat was based on flawed observational studies that failed to separate it from the harmful effects of refined carbohydrates and trans fats. In the context of a whole foods diet, natural saturated fats from coconut oil, grass-fed butter, and ghee are neutral or even beneficial for your health, and they are unquestionably safer for high-heat cooking than unstable industrial seed oils. I want to leave you with a final example to make this real. One of my patients, a woman I'll call Grace, was in her late 50s and struggling with high cholesterol and prediabetes. She had switched to using canola oil exclusively because she believed it was heart-healthy. She didn't fry food often, but she used canola oil for almost everything: sautéing vegetables, roasting potatoes, even baking. I asked her to make one change: switch to coconut oil for high-heat cooking and extra virgin olive oil for everything else. She was skeptical at first. She had been told for years that coconut oil would clog her arteries. But after 3 months, her follow-up labs showed a significant improvement in her HDL cholesterol, her triglycerides had dropped, and her fasting blood sugar was consistently lower. More importantly, she reported feeling less bloated after meals and having more stable energy throughout the day. The only change she made was the type of oil she was using. The processed foods she was cooking remained the same. The portions were the same. Only the oil changed. Your body has been silently fighting the damage from these oxidized oils. Every time you eat them, your liver has to work overtime to process the toxic breakdown products. Every time you breathe those frying fumes, your lungs are exposed to compounds that we know cause cellular damage. But the human body is remarkably resilient. When you remove the source of injury, it can begin to heal. By making this one simple swap, replacing unstable industrial seed oils with stable, heat-resistant traditional fats, you can reduce your daily intake of toxic aldehydes, lower your chronic inflammation, and take a powerful, evidence-based step toward protecting your heart, your liver, and the integrity of your cells. If this video gave you a new perspective on the oil in your kitchen, share it with someone who's still cooking with vegetable oil. They might be harming their health without even knowing it, and a few minutes of science could change the way they cook for the rest of their lives. And if you want more science-based protocols for metabolic health, gut health, and reducing inflammation, subscribe to HE so you never miss a video. I'm Dr. Vivian Hart. Cook smart, and I'll see you in the next one.